Eldridge Hollow. The town of Eldridge Hollow was old. Settled generations ago, it was a place where time seemed to move slower. The trees lining its narrow streets were gnarled and ancient. Their branches, like skeletal arms, reached out over the rooftops of the houses below. Many of the houses in Eldridge Hollow had seen better days. They were grand Victorian structures, remnants of a more prosperous time. Their paint peeled and their porches sagged, but they still held a certain gloomy charm. None were as imposing or as sad as the old Blackwood Manor at the edge of town. It stood on a hill overlooking the town, its windows like vacant eyes. Locals whispered tales of the family that once lived there, of their sudden disappearance, and the strange occurrences that followed. The Blackwood Manor was a place shrouded in mystery, a place that whispered secrets on the wind. It was a place that both frightened and fascinated Clara. Clara was an artist, new to Eldridge Hollow. She was drawn to the town's quiet beauty, to the way the light filtered through the leaves of the ancient trees. She found inspiration in the everyday, in the weathered faces of the townspeople and the faded grandeur of the old houses. Clara had rented a small cottage on the outskirts of town. It was a cosy space with a sunroom that overlooked the Blackwood Manor on the hill. She was immediately captivated by the house. Its dilapidated elegance sparked her imagination. She felt a pull towards it, a desire to capture its essence on canvas. Clara began to spend her days sketching the manor. She'd sit in her sunroom, a cup of tea growing cold beside her, as she tried to translate the house's melancholy beauty onto paper. One cool autumn afternoon, unable to resist the allure any longer, Clara decided to explore the grounds of the manor. As she walked up the long, overgrown driveway, she felt a shiver run down her spine. The air around the house seemed different. It was heavy, as if laden with unseen things. Clara reached the front door, its paint peeling and cracked. To her surprise, it was unlocked. Taking a deep breath, she pushed the door open. The interior of the house was dark and silent, thick with dust and the smell of decay. The air was stale and cold, sending another shiver down her spine. Sunlight filtered through the dusty windows, illuminating the house in patches. Clara stepped inside, her footsteps echoing in the stillness. The house was like a time capsule, furniture draped in white sheets, bookshelves lined with leather-bound volumes, and cobwebs clinging to every surface. It was both beautiful and eerie. Clara wandered from room to room, her fingers trailing along dusty surfaces. In the parlour she found a grand piano, its keys yellowed with age. She gently pressed a key, the sound out of tune and jarring, breaking the silence. As she explored, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. A prickling sensation crawled up her neck. She heard soft whispers, too low to discern words, coming from the shadows. Clara, her heart pounding in her chest, slowly climbed the grand staircase. Each step creaked under her weight, the sound echoing through the silent house. The whispers grew stronger as she ascended. They seemed to be coming from the top of the stairs, from a room at the end of the hallway. Clara, her curiosity outweighing her fear, moved towards the sound. The whispers seemed to intensify as she approached the door, swirling around her like the wind. The Lady in White. Clara reached for the doorknob, the metal cold beneath her touch. She hesitated for a moment, her heart pounding in her ears. Taking a deep breath, she pushed the door open. The room was dimly lit by a single window, dust motes dancing in the pale light. And there, in the middle of the room, was a figure. A woman, dressed in a flowing white gown, her back to Clara. Clara gasped, her hand flying to her mouth to stifle a scream. The figure didn't move. It stood perfectly still, as if frozen in time. Clara gathered her courage and spoke, her voice trembling. "Hello? Is someone there?" The figure remained motionless. Clara took a tentative step forward, her eyes fixed on the ghostly presence. As Clara moved closer, the figure slowly began to turn. The woman was beautiful, with long flowing hair and sad ethereal eyes. She looked at Clara, her gaze filled with a deep sorrow. Clara felt a chill run down her spine, but she stood her ground. The ghostly woman's lips moved, forming words Clara could barely hear. "Help me," the whisper echoed through the room. In a rush of images and emotions, the ghostly woman's story unfolded in Clara's mind. She saw glimpses of the woman's life. Her name was Amelia, and she had loved and lost, her heart shattered by grief. Amelia had died in this house, her spirit unable to find peace. Clara understood. Amelia was trapped, tethered to the house by her unfinished business. Clara, her fear replaced by a surge of sympathy, knew she had to help Amelia. Looking around the room, she noticed a canvas leaning against the wall. It was Amelia, frozen in time, in a beautiful white dress. The painting was unfinished. "You want me to finish your portrait?" Clara whispered, her voice echoing in the silent room. Amelia nodded, a flicker of hope in her sorrowful eyes. Clara returned to the manor the next day, her art supplies in tow. She set up her easel in the room with Amelia, a sense of purpose settling over her. As Clara painted, she felt Amelia's presence beside her, a comforting warmth in the cold room. She poured all her talent and empathy into the portrait, recreating the sadness in Amelia's eyes, but also the love and hope that still lingered there. Days turned into weeks as Clara worked tirelessly on the portrait. She felt a connection to Amelia, a kinship with this woman trapped by her past. With each brushstroke, Clara felt Amelia's presence grow fainter, as if she were finally finding peace. Finally, the portrait was complete. Clara stepped back, her eyes welling up as she looked at her work. Amelia's eyes in the portrait seemed to sparkle, a grateful smile gracing her lips. As Clara stared at the painting, a soft light emanated from Amelia. The room grew warm and a gentle breeze swept through, rustling the curtains. Clara watched as Amelia, bathed in light, turned to her one last time. A look of peace washed over Amelia's face, and with a grateful smile she faded away. The room was silent again, the only sound the soft chirping of birds outside the window. Clara left the Blackwood Manor that day, the completed portrait of Amelia in her hands. She hung it in her studio, a constant reminder of the ghostly encounter and the woman she had helped find peace. The Blackwood Manor stood silent on the hill, its secrets seemingly buried with the past. But Clara couldn't shake the feeling that the house held more stories, more whispers waiting to be heard. She had glimpsed something in Amelia's memories, other presences lurking in the shadows of the old house. Clara knew her time in Eldridge Hollow was far from over. She would uncover the truth, one brushstroke at a time. The whispers in the walls of the Blackwood Manor had more to tell, and Clara was ready to listen.